Rusame reader, Rusame, and today I will be reading to you from The Masquerade by Daughter of Apollo, 2019. Now, on to Chapter 4, The Ball, Part 1. When Canada and I arrived back in the main hall, this time with our masks already on, the room was full of people. And when I said full, I meant full. Mother was trying to herd everyone into the ballroom, because that was a bigger space and could fit more people. Just looking around, I recognized some people, like Mexico, who already had a yellow mask with little bits of red and green mixed in, and Argentina, who had a light blue mask with spots of white and yellow. But there were more people who I didn't recognize. There was a boy wearing a white mask with red and blue accents, standing next to a girl who had a similar mask but without the blue, and another boy with a red and blue mask, cutting out the white altogether. They seemed to be related, but I wasn't sure if I had ever seen them before. If I had, it'd been too long ago to remember. I was starting to get a little claustrophobic in such a crowded and compact place until I got pulled aside by someone. "Oi, mate, you gotta watch out. You can't just go wandering into the crowd like that. We'll lose you in an instant," a familiar accent said, and I saw Australia standing next to me, wearing a blue mask with white stars scattered around. Brazil popped up beside Aussie, wearing a green mask with green and yellow feathers sticking out from the corners. "Come on, Aussie, give the cara a break." Rough translation of the Portuguese is guy. Another possible translation is face, but I'm pretty sure with context we can all see that that is supposed to be guy. "Yeah, Oz," New Zealand commented. Coming up from behind, he was wearing a similar mask to Australia, only there were less stars, and the stars were red. There was a sigh as Canada came from behind Kiwi. What did Aussie do now? "Where is everyone coming from?" I asked, seriously confused as to why everyone was coming over to us. "Because nothing interesting is happening over there, mi amigo," Mexico whispered in my ear, making me jump. "Don't do that!" I felt my face heat up as everyone started laughing at my reaction. "Lo siento, America," Mexico apologized, so giggling a little. I couldn't help myself. The Spanish means I'm sorry. I huffed, but it was good-natured. Before long, we had finally managed to get to the ballroom, and I watched Mexico's shock to the grandeur of the room. The ballroom was only reserved for special occasions or parties, and it was usually off-limits for us. However, me being who I am, I liked to sneak into this room as a child and have wild fantasies about balls and meeting many people and altogether having a good time. That was before the disaster ball that happened 2 years ago. After that, I couldn't even force myself to look at the doors of the ballroom, let alone go inside. But somehow, being in the space, surrounded by the sound of chatter and excitement, made the whole room appear in a whole different light. We mostly hung around the walls of the room, not really wanting to get into the heat of it. Then would come all the questions about my future plans, and I really didn't want to go there right now. Unfortunately, as much as I wanted to, I couldn't cower or wave for the whole time, and eventually Canada nudged me to go talk to people. "Come on, you gotta talk to at least one lady. Learn her name. I'm sure that'll be enough to satisfy Dad," Canada insisted, and I had to admit he was right. I quickly glanced around before I saw the girl from earlier, hanging out with the 2 boys from before, along with another boy wearing a red mask and yellow stars. And I made my way over to them before I could change my mind. "How are you doing tonight?" I asked the girl, and she smiled a bit. "I'm doing fine, thank you." She did a little bow. "Konnichiwa. I am Princess Japan. These are my brothers, Princes North and South Korea. She motioned to a guy with a red and blue mask and to the other one with a white mask. And this is my good friend China. She gestured to the boy in a red mask. It's nice to meet you, Japan, I said, choosing not to add the royal title. Japan seemed to notice, and she gave me a smile. I hung out with them for a while. Japan was really nice, and South Korea, while quiet, was friendly too. On the other hand, both North Korea and China have a little of a menacing vibe. Something along the lines of, if you take one step out of line, I will end you right here and now. After a while, North Korea started glaring at me rather intensely, and I quickly found an excuse to leave. I didn't know where to go, so I just wandered around until I bumped into Canada, who was with another girl wearing a blue and yellow mask. So, how'd it go? I saw you hanging out with that girl over there. It was alright. I didn't bother elaborating. Care to introduce me to your lady? Canada just started blushing, but the girl just laughed. I assume you are America. Canada has told me about you. Quite a lot, actually. She smiled. My name is Ukraine. It's a pleasure to meet you, Ukraine. I gave her a smile. I hung out with Canada and Ukraine for a little bit, mostly because I didn't have anything to do. A servant was slowly making their way around the room, carrying a tray of champagne. When they came this way, I turned my back to them. It wasn't their job to check who was getting the drinks. They were just passing out. I learned that last time, and I wasn't about to make the same mistake that I'd made 2 years ago. After a while, I was getting bored again, so I started looking around to see if there was anyone I could hang out with. Australia and Brazil were nowhere to be found, assumedly having left to play with Ozu's animals. Mexico was flirting with a guy wearing a red mask. Canada was still talking with Ukraine, and that's when I saw Phil. Phil, short for Philippines, used to be my friend. We were really close, to the point of doing almost everything together. But ever since the mistake we made, we haven't talked to each other. It brings up things we'd both rather forget. My brain went on autopilot, and I searched for the nearest exit to the room, and made my way over to it. Subconsciously, I noticed New Zealand hanging out with someone, but I ignored it. I was looking past for someone to hang out with. Before I'd registered my surroundings, I had left the ball. But now, the real question was, where do I go now? And that's the end of this chapter. I hope you enjoyed. Anyway, I'd like to invite you to join the Discord, which is linked down in the description below. That being said, I hope you have a nice rest of your day, night, or whatever it is for you. Just enjoy your time. And I will see you tomorrow.